Well, look, here's one thing you got to do when you're a cash person, right? You're going to have to put it somewhere, right? Unless you put it under the mattress. So I guess, we could still look for fraud. We don't have to stop the fraud department. But because we're going to be looking for that, like you said in the other examples, right? Here's some guy living one way, declaring another way. So fraud, I think you'll still have to police. But I guess what I'm saying is when it's simple arithmetic, hey, I made $70,000, I owe 7 grand. That's it. Boom. There's no two ways to look at it. 10% of 70 is 7. That's that. Would that result in a higher collection ratio, do you think?
Well, I mean, again, on paper it sounds great, but what about the people jumping up and down and says, "But I have children," and someone else, "But I have a house." So, I spent on education. So, our system is based on so many deductions and so many pieces of paper in this tax return. I mean, I have things that even with those, high volume staplers, they can't even be stapled. They're so huge, some of the tax returns.
Right, right. Well,
It,
right
you know,
now,
it, it,
what do
it's hard
you?
to take
Yeah,
away something from
sure.
someone that you had,
No,
right?
listen, I think that's the story of healthcare. I think you just put your finger on why Obamacare is going to stick around. It got dug in, and the energy to knock it out is weak, not strong. If the energy to knock it out was strong, they'd probably knock it out. The energy to go after it now is so weak. But getting back to this one, the way that we currently do it, okay, and citing those numbers that you did before, which are pretty big numbers about who's not paying, who's owed, et cetera. Um, what what do we expect right now is the collection ratio of what the IRS says it should collect versus how much it actually collects of that. Do you have a feel for that number?
From what I see, it's very little because I have clients come to me that are maybe 3 or 4 years late, and the IRS isn't even on these people for some of those tax returns. They're still looking at 13 or 12, and I'm like, I'm looking at their audit notice for these tax returns, and I'm like, well, let's see your other ones because don't think they're not going to ask for them. And, oh, I didn't do them yet. I'm like, oh, you're 3, 4 years late, and they absolutely don't care. Some people are just really unbelievable. You look at these things and there's fraud all over. I'm like, you signed this tax return. Yeah, well, I'm going. Well, some people are just ignorant, about deductions. But if I look at this stuff just screams. And I had one. I can't call him a client because we do not work together. Say, well, you know what? The IRS is asking for too much. I don't want to give 20 categories of stuff that they're looking for. So you will call them and tell them that they can just look at two. But I was done laughing. I
Wow.
said,
Wow.
dude, find someone else because you're out of your mind.
Well, it's very tough for people, I think, to work with it when they don't fully understand it. And maybe, as you pointed out earlier, that is the stronger effort to keep it nice and complex. And, that does give the average person a little bit of a disadvantage. So we desperately need you. You have been following them for how many decades now? Do you remember when you first used to start watching what the heck they were doing in bulletins that they put out? How far back do you and the IRS go? Do you remember your earliest days?
I don't think I want to answer that question.
Oh, all right. Well, don't mention the year, but what were the issues? What were the issues when you began? What were some of the first things that you looked up and looked after without mentioning the year? But what were the concerns of
Mhm.
the clients that you first went to
No,
work on?
it's exactly what you say, and it's been decades, and you know what? It's just the ignorance of the American public, and it's really sad because this is a requirement for everybody, right? Everyone has a tax return, yet everyone is so ignorant about the workings and about what we can deduct. Because
Right.
you get 50 people in a room, and I'm telling you about 98% of them will say, hey, can you deduct your business clothes? And they will all say, well, yeah, I would never wear this
Of
suit if it wasn't
course.
for
Oh,
going to
yeah.
the
Well, no
office.
way. No way, baby.
And
You got to get
right,
dressed
and that's
anyway.
common
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I mean, also let's look at how many people are falling for these IRS scams.
Right.
These robocalls, the fake notices, the fake texts, the calls that say, Ed, I'm coming to your house to arrest you because you owe $8,000 to me right now, and go get a Target gift card. They actually did that with a 19-year-old guy. They called him. They said, "You owe," and they frightened this kid to death. And he ran and he went to Target, put it on a gift card, and he lost $3,000.
Oh my God. Yeah, see.
Yeah,
It's a
it's really
minefield.
bad.
It's a minefield. They're predators. Those people are predators. Abby,
They're predators.
you are, and you know what you are? You are our loyal centurion at the gate guarding the citizenry against the out-of-control taxation policies and collection policies of the IRS. We thank you. Abby Eisencraft is the author of 101 Ways to Stay Off the IRS Radar. You need this book. 101 Ways to Stay Off the IRS Radar. Abby Eisencraft, our guest, the author. The book is available on Amazon. Go to Abby's website, www.reallifetaxadvice.com. Abby, you're great. Thank you again for your time today.
My pleasure.
I love talking to you. Have a great week, okay?
Same here. You too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. I never even thought about dating a tax expert when I was young. What was wrong with me? I should have been hanging out at some business school where the tax students were coming out, right? And go to the mixer or whatever you go to the hoedown, the dance, you know, the square, whatever they did back in those days when I was young, and it was business school. I never hung around with the business school. I was always hanging around with the poets, literature, yeah, whatever. Can't ask them for any tax help. I could have been with some hot-looking, some smoking hot accounting student, tax specialist. Well, you missed your chance, Tyll. But that's what Abby Eisencraft reminds me of. She reminds me of one of those, you know, back in the day at school, you know, she was all cute and prim and proper, and who knew she would be a tax dynamo? There's probably some dudes that went to school with her, right? And they went to work at the IRS. Oh, yeah, we're back at the IRS doing nothing, got our feet up on the desk, just ruining people's lives left and right. Then all of a sudden they get a file dropped on their desk. Boom! And the secretary leaves. And the guys at the IRS are all like, what the hell's all this? They start scratching themselves, looking at it, and bang! It's a bunch of pleadings and dismissals and notices to override and tax accounting supplement appendices, appendices. The whole thing's in there. She's wiping them all out, and they're looking and going, oh, my God, look at this. Oh, God, we have to give all this money back. Oh, look what we did to this poor person. Who put this campaign together? And they get to the last page. Respectfully submitted by Abby Eisencraft. Second line, go to my website, reallifetaxadvice.com. And they're like, oh my God, she was so cute in school. You remember her? Yeah, she was always staying late after tax class. That's why she was gunning for us. Oh, please, you're exaggerating the whole thing. She's very good at what she does. Oh, that's what you think it is, huh? You think she's just good at it? She's not just good at it. It was a plot from the... Oh, shut up. You just can't take it that a girl did so much better than you at taxes. Oh. A tax man, huh? You know, all my favorite rock stars got nailed by the tax man. I don't know if you know about that, right? Beatles got nailed. The Stones got nailed. Taxman in England, it was more oppressive in many ways than the American tax. At least in America, is something our guest, very experienced at actually, would tell you that at least you have due process over here. A lot of presumptions go to you. When often they do not in other systems. But nonetheless, Abby Eisencraft is a giant in her field. We're so thankful for her generosity with her time, and we look forward to having her back on the show real soon. Again, you can go to her website if you would like to reach out to her, www.reallifetaxadvice.com.
Mr. Tyll, really no reason to come down on you. Surely a little take it where we wanna go. A pointless arrow from a broken bow. Hello, your radio. I get the picture with no photograph. Don't need no video autograph. It's stereo. Have we become so hideous, rotten to the core, offensively oblivious, ever wanting for more, Mr. Tyll? Take full advantage of an imbecile, cut 'em off at will.